Okay, it is the time that everyone's been waiting for. Cyberpunk 2077 has not been delayed anymore. I received a review code about 5 or 6 days ago, and apart from 2 days that I had to be away from my PC, that's all I've done. Played as much as I possibly could of Cyberpunk, experiencing the world, the story, everything. So when I sat down today, I'd have the best possible idea of what this game's all about. This game is like the game of the generation to a lot of people, or they're expecting it or hoping it is. The question is this game Cyberpunk 2077 or Cyberpunk 2076? Let's find out. So before we start, okay, there is no spoilers, or I'm going to try my very best to not spoil anything in this game, apart from things that I absolutely need to talk about so you have an understanding of what to expect. Now, we are using B-roll today provided from CD Projekt Red. You won't see any of my own footage. Now, they're not allowing us to show our own footage until later in the week, pretty much like the day before it actually releases, which I have my own opinion about. So we'll get to the actual performance that I experienced on my PC and the bugginess that I experienced a little bit later. But for first, there we go, let's talk about what I did like about this game. Now, expectations are very high with this game. We all kind of know that. It's probably the most hyped game I've ever experienced. So when I jumped in, also my expectations were very high. When you jump into the world of Cyberpunk, it is one of the most realized, visually amazing, jaw-dropping experiences I've personally ever had in a game. From traveling around in the car and just experiencing the actual world and the nightlife of Night City, from sitting down in smoky rooms and having conversations with like amazing lit, almost like noir-esque lighting coming through, to nightclubs, to everything in between, to desert scenes, to car chases, to just chilling in the world and taking it all in. It is honestly one of the most immersive experiences I've ever had in a game. Graphically and atmospherically, I really feel like this is absolutely class leading. And it's not only the atmosphere it creates, it's the detail. From inside cars, to just walking around the streets, to talking to people and seeing what they're actually wearing, what the nightclub looks like, or what the city streets look like, going up to even small areas of the map and just looking down and just seeing the minute details they put into vending machines, particular types of shirts and jackets. And it's not only what the characters look like and what the characters are wearing, the skilled voice actors that bring these characters to life. It's just, you are completely sold on the idea that Night City is a real place and you're just visiting it, and somewhere in the world or somewhere in the future it does exist. So in terms of a visual experience and an atmospheric experience, it definitely for me lived up to the hype, which is pretty hard to do. And when you're driving around Night City or going into nightclubs or having conversations or in the middle of gunfights or car chases or explosions or whatever, I pretty much held a consistent 60 FPS on my 1080 Ti. So if you've got a 1080 Ti and you want to play on the highest settings, Ultra without ray tracing, I didn't have much of a problem there. When it comes to weapon mechanics, now I played on controller and keyboard and mouse to try and play both of them to see how they both felt. I was pleasantly surprised to see how competent the actual weapons really were. Look, they're not like Destiny good in terms of the shooting and how it feels, but like, it's actually really close. The more I played the game, the more I felt like it was not only satisfying to be shooting those enemies with these different types of weapons that you find, that it was also really effective in terms of the enemies weren't overly bullet spongy. You know how some games come around and they just want to fill the room with a few enemies and keep you there for a while just so you can't move on, and that results in just having to just load them full of bullets and bullets. They didn't do this with that. It feels like a really nice balance between the actual weapons that you have and the actual enemies and how much they're going to take. And it kind of keeps the pacing of combat and using those weapons really, really awesome. Especially when a big portion of this game is going to be spent in combat. Not all the time, of course, there's a lot of dialogue scenes, a lot of driving scenes. But a lot of the time you are going to be shooting people in rooms and whatnot. You want to feel like it was going to be satisfying and deep enough that it was going to be, you know, enjoyable 40 hours in, and they definitely accomplished that. Now, off the back of talking about weapons, the enemy AI also felt pretty engaging. They felt smart in terms of where they were taking cover and when they were going to shoot. You didn't see a lot of, geographic changes in terms of them moving around the map or flanking you or anything like that. It was more that they were just standing their ground, taking their cover and choosing their moments they were going to come out and fire at you, which in turn made you have to take cover and be quite choosy when you were going to come out and shoot. It also meant that you can't just run around the room or run around the area just shooting willy-nilly. You needed to be a little bit more selective when you were going to come out and actually attack them. Now, a few things that I didn't love about this game, one of them is ammo economy. I mean, you also might have a different experience here, but I felt like I was always looking at my ammo and thinking, I've got 13 rounds left of my pistol. I'm about to be, running around this map looking for ammo and not concentrating on the actual battle. I know that's a creative choice. They wanted to maybe make it a bit more interesting, a bit more complex, and you can't just sit there and just completely clear a room with one single ammo clip or whatever. But it kind of, for me, took me out of the experience of just wanting to be in that room in combat, and I had to continuously always think about how much ammo I had, and it kind of took me out of the shoot 'em up moments that I was really enjoying. Now, there is a skill tree in this game. It's probably the biggest skill tree I've ever seen in my life. Legitimately, it's just absolutely massive. And at first glance, you might think, wow, look at the build diversity. Look at the amount of things that I can maybe do in this game on my second and third playthrough that will fundamentally change the way that I play this game. And on the surface, it may look like that, but if you really look at the skill tree, it's, +4 crit on pistol or 10% damage, 10% health and 10% damage on certain weapons. Sure, that affects the gameplay, but it doesn't fundamentally change the way that you're going to traverse this world and experience this game. So I would actually say that this skill tree is maybe too big, because it just tries to tackle so much that you're left feeling like there's just too much ground to cover. You don't know which way to really navigate, and you don't know what particular avenue to go through which will be the most effective for your particular style of play. Having said that, you can upgrade certain aspects that allow you to rip doors open or hack certain doors. So in that regard, you probably will feel environmentally outside the world a slightly different experience when you are buffing certain things to let you open doors or turn off cameras and all that kind of stuff. But again, the skill tree doesn't, for me, feel like it's a defining way that you can change your experience playing this game. Now, the campaign. This is where we get into the meat of the actual story and what this whole game's all about. Now, of course, without spoilers, you are joined at the hip with Johnny Silverhand. A lot of your adventures involve Johnny and yourself going into Night City and trying to solve something that your life depends on. That's all I'm going to say. But because of that, I was expecting that Johnny Silverhand and myself was going to have some very fruitful, slow-burning relationship that by the end of it really paid off with some emotional big wins. You don't really feel that, especially in the main campaign. I was also kind of expecting this to ask bigger questions like Blade Runner does, or other, styles of future noir. What does it mean to be a human, and what does it mean to be robotic? And as technology grows with humanity, what are the consequences and all that kind of stuff, right? They're really interesting stuff to see in any futuristic types of movies or games. They didn't go down the route of that at all. They didn't really want to ask big questions in this. It's more about just experiencing the world, just inhabiting the world, driving around the world, doing quests and solving things, and also going on the journey with Johnny Silverhand, not because you want to learn more about, the future implications of humanity or all that kind of business. It's like they just want to take you on a really cool journey so Johnny Silverhand can say as many cool, badass things as possible. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Just be aware that this story isn't really asking the big questions. It's really just wanting to throw you into a world that's futuristic, super cool, and they just want you to have a badass time with Johnny Silverhand. And if we're just talking about the main story for a moment, I was somewhat disappointed with the payoffs emotionally. It didn't hit the levels that I wished it would, especially when you are playing this game for 30 or 40 hours. I was expecting a little bit more of a high note to finish on, but it kind of just simmers off to an ending, if that makes sense, which was a bit of a disappointment, especially when Johnny Silverhand, such a badass, I was really wanting that story to be fleshed out to a point that when it ended, I felt like, wow, what an amazing experience I just had with Johnny Silverhand. But instead, you kind of just feel, and you finish and feel like there was more to be done, or there was more to be fleshed out in terms of the emotional relationship between yourself and Johnny Silverhand. Now, what really surprised me was actually the side quests. Now, in some games, side quests are like, go and fetch this and I'll give you some gold for it, or you'll get some experience, or you might get some cool items along the way. With these side quests, they actually answer a lot more of the relationship and emotional questions that I thought the main quests would have done. It's kind of weird because I finished the main quest first, then I went to do the side quests. A lot of people like to do that. I myself was one of those people. I feel like if the side quests were like mandatory and they were woven together with the main story, this would have been better in terms of pacing, and it would have made the person playing feel like there was a bit more of a slow burn to the conclusion that you do have at the end of the game. Honestly, in some ways, better content. The side quests were like better content a lot of the time compared to the main story for me personally. If you are looking for like emotional, relationship building quests that get to know the actual characters that are in this world, then that's definitely what I would suggest. And just a little side note on Johnny Silverhand, Keanu Reeves for me, great, like he's amazingly cast. Now some people might think it may be hard to move past the good guy Keanu that we know and love in, in real life. But I think what he does here is really cool. He's a badass, he's an asshole the whole time, but like in a cool way. And Keanu actually really nails this. So I think Keanu was perfectly cast for this, and it really does enrich the story tenfold to have Johnny Silverhand there and Keanu there as the voice actor. Now we've talked a lot about what I loved about the game, and some of the things that I didn't love about the game. There's one thing that we really need to discuss, and it is the bugs. Now the bugs in this game are some of the worst bugs I've ever experienced in a game, hands down. A lot of people are going to say, Day 1 patch, baby, it's all good. Day 1 patch will fix all this. Well, number one, 2 days ago, they sent us a 49 gig patch that was supposed to fix a lot of the bugs, which did not fix pretty much any of these bugs. Now, I've been doing reviews on Laymen for like 3 years now, dozens of games that we've reviewed on here, many of which have been prior to release. So we've got, review builds. You get a sense of when a day 1 patch will fix 1 or 2 things. With this, it feels like there is so much to be fixed here that it is game-breakingly bad. Now, this is part of the problem with only being able to use B-roll for this particular review, and then only a day before the actual game comes out will other YouTubers be actually able to show you some of these bugs that are appearing in this game. Everything from floating weapons, a completely bugged out final boss that just stood there and looked at me the whole time, elevators not working, cut dialogue in the middle of a sentence. The NPC would just look at me and I'm not able to break the cinematic that's taking place. Quests not starting, dialogue options can't be pressed, invulnerability bug, which I apparently died in a mission, I had 0 health, and I'm able to just still walk around and kill everybody. I had to literally get into a car and then, get the police angry at me so they would blow up the car so I would actually respawn with normal health and the bug would not be there anymore. The list goes on. I couldn't even write down everything that I was experiencing. It was literally like every 30 minutes to 45 minutes, I'd have to reset the game. Now again, I know a lot of people are going to say day 1 patch will fix all these. And I hope it does. I really do. I really want CD Projekt Red to have a win here. I think it's an amazing game what they've made. But this just speaks to the reason why we've seen so many delays, and then why they delayed it again after it's gone gold. I mean, have we ever seen a game be delayed after it's gone gold? I'm unaware of one, right? It must have been because it was in such a dire, buggy state that they absolutely needed to delay again. But for them to delay after December 10th, maybe they felt like it was just going to shake the confidence too much of the player base as well as the shareholders, so they just couldn't possibly delay this anymore. Again, I'm not out to hurt this game. I want this game to be successful. But I just feel like it would be irresponsible for me with the current state that I've played this game to not at least tell you and warn you that there's a good chance that day 1 patch, whatever it's going to be, I've already experienced the 49 gig patch, it didn't really do much. I bet this is going to come out on day 1 and have a lot of bugs. And for me, it was atmospherically breaking and immersively breaking and game breaking. Like, just constantly feeling like I was thrown out of the world of Night City in Cyberpunk because I had to deal with a bug. You know, there were some moments when I was playing the game that I was literally chuckling to myself, like, this is Fallout 76 bug bad. Like, legit though. I just feel like you guys need to be aware. Like, if you're going to purchase this game, expect a lot of bugs. If the miracle comes around and they fix them all before day one, fantastic. But I don't believe that's going to be the case. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Do I recommend this game? I've had an amazing experience with this game. From, you know, the side quests and some parts of the campaign, from the weapon mechanics to the world building, the immersion, and everything in between. I really think that, for me, it's not game of the generation where a lot of people were hoping and expecting it to be, but it's still an amazing experience worth playing and one of the best games you'll play in a long time, when the bugs are fixed. If you want to go in right now and buy this game, knowing full well that it could be a buggy mess for the foreseeable future, and you still want to buy it anyway, then I would still say that you're going to have a good experience if you are prepared for bugs. If you want to have a flawless experience, when this game comes out, maybe wait a few weeks. Maybe wait, like, you know, a month potentially, until the gaming community and the reviewing community come back to the game and go, yes, it is now fixed. It is now flawless, or at least it's to a point where the bugs are just not going to get in the way of the actual experience. So in that regard, I would only recommend this game at this moment if people are fully aware and are completely fine with the idea that a bug may appear every half an hour to 45 minutes. Alright guys, that is it for today. Thank you so much. Love you, appreciate you. Looking forward to the passionate Cyberpunk people in the comment section. Again, I want the best for the game. I hope it can fix all the bugs as soon as possible and everyone can have the best experience they possibly can. I will see you guys next time, and Laymen out!